Hi, Dr. Ragasi here. I've been meaning to record this video for a very long time because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there about how diabetes works. And I too was incredibly frustrated about why my patients weren't getting better with their diabetes. And one of the sad things was that every time they saw me, either their diabetes would just be stable or it was time to add another medication, which made it incredibly frustrating for me as a physician because I didn't feel like I was actually helping my patients. So let's go into how you can actually control your diabetes naturally with little to no medications. So first of all, I want to explain where all of this information comes from. There's a new specialty in medicine called lifestyle medicine, and it relies on 6 different pillars. These pillars are nutrition, exercise, tobacco and alcohol cessation, as well as stress management, sleep, and healthy relationships. So there's a lot of research that explains how you can make modifications in each of these pillars to optimize your health, avoid chronic conditions, and maybe even reverse some of the chronic conditions that you might have. So the one I'm going to focus on most over here is nutrition because I feel it is the most frustrating. A lot of my patients will feel like they're eating the right things and eating a healthy diet, not touching any carbs, and they still can't get their diabetes under control, and we still continue to add more medications. So in order to understand this a little bit better, I've created an animation to help us understand how our body absorbs sugar. So this is an oversimplification of how it works in the body, but I think it demonstrates and helps you understand how it actually works in the body. I'll provide a link down below with Dr. Greger's video, which really goes into the nitty-gritties of the receptors and all the different little things that work inside of our cells and the technicality of it. But again, this is just an oversimplification so that you can kind of understand what is going on in the body. So here you see in the red over here is your blood vessel, and as you eat your food, you're going to find glucose or sugars in there, and it's going to be absorbed into the body, into the bloodstream. And when your body detects that, your pancreas ends up secreting insulin, and insulin ends up touching to these receptors. Once these insulin receptors are activated by insulin, it ends up opening doors to all the cells, and the cells will end up taking the glucose in and using it as energy for our body. When this happens, our sugars turn back to lower normal levels, and you end up having energy. And glucose or sugar is our body's preferred source of energy. Okay, so what happens when you eat a lot of animal products or foods with saturated fats? So saturated fats are primarily found in animal products. In the plant world, it's also found in palm oil and coconut oil. So when you end up eating foods with saturated fats, it also comes into the arteries. And what it does is essentially it kind of blocks the receptor. And when your body detects that, oh, my sugars are high, it starts to secrete insulin because it wants to use that sugar as a form of energy for the body. But because the saturated fats are in the way, the insulin can't attach appropriately to the receptor. And then because it can't because it can't attach to the receptor, the doors won't open to the cells, and you end up having no or low energy, and the sugars stay inside the blood vessel, so now you have high blood sugar. So the problem here is not necessarily that you're eating sugars, it's really a fact that you're having foods that are high in saturated fats that don't allow the insulin to work properly. So let's see how this looks in the real world. These are examples of my own patients that I have helped teach them how to eat differently, and have had really great results with it. So I want to share this with you as hopefully some inspiration. This is Miss Grace. This is actually the very first person I counseled to eat differently. And at the time, I was actually quite hesitant. I didn't know if it was going to work. But she was desperate. So anyway, Miss Grace has type 2 diabetes. Her A1C is 8.5. Normal, or what we consider controlled for diabetes, it should be less than 7%. And she was up at 8.5 despite taking all these medications. She's taking metformin, 4 tablets a day, glipizide, 4 tablets a day, and then also she's injecting insulin 60 units a day. So that's 30 units twice a day. And despite taking all these medications, her sugars are still not well controlled. And naturally, as a physician, my first question to her is, are you even taking your medications? And of course she says, yes, I take my medications. I don't want my diabetes to be out of control. What is going on? And I said, okay, well, you're probably not eating right. So I asked her what she was eating, and she was telling me, okay, well, for breakfast, I have oatmeal, and then for lunch and dinner, I always have some type of salad with some type of protein, meaning either chicken or fish. And if I get hungry in between, I'll have, maybe a piece of cheese, or maybe I'll have some yogurt. And then digging into this a little bit more, I was like, okay, well, where are your pastries? Where are the cookies? Because there's no way you're eating this quote unquote clean diet and still having high sugars like this. And she tells me that she doesn't eat any pastries because she really truly takes her diabetes seriously and she doesn't want to make herself worse. So my next question to her was, do you even exercise? And she tells me that she does 45 minutes of cardio every day. And I was just at that point, like, I didn't know what to think of her. And if you ask any doctor who may not be educated in lifestyle medicine, our natural inclination is to just increase the medication. So that's what my initial thought and suggestion was to her. And I said, listen, your diabetes is not well controlled. That just means we have to increase your insulin. And she got so upset. She was like, no way, you're not doing that to me. There's got to be something else. And at this point, I had just started learning about whole food plant-based diet. And I said, listen, I don't know if this works, but if you want to try this out, we can certainly do this. And of course, if your sugars don't get better at that point, we should definitely increase your medications. And she's like, I will do anything. So I suggested to her to go ahead and basically eat the same things, but to really replace her proteins. So instead of having chicken or fish with her salads, I really wanted her to focus on beans or lentils or tofu, any type of plant protein that's not highly processed. And if she got hungry in between her salads, then she could also have maybe a piece of fruit with a handful of nuts and nothing more than just a handful. And she said, no problem, I already have a strict diet, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So she starts off with her A1C of 8.5 and she takes my advice to heart. And within the first week of going whole food plant-based diet, she has to stop all her insulin because her sugars are dropping so low. So she stops all 60 units of her insulin within the first week. A month later, she stops all of her diabetes medications. And we check her blood sugar again, and it drops from 8.5 to 7.5 in just 1 month with 0 medications. This is just changing her proteins over. And then we check her blood sugar again, because with me and my practice, what I do is if your sugars are not technically controlled, so not less than 7%, I like to check them monthly until we get them under good control. So we check them again a month later and she drops to 6.9. Now her diabetes is completely controlled with the 0 medications, purely just off of the foods that she's chosen to eat. Now, let's go to a second example. We'll call her Miss NP. This lady was new to me. Her A1C when she first came to see me was 12.3. She had no previous diagnosis of diabetes, and she wasn't having any terrible symptoms either. To make sure that she actually had diabetes, I rechecked her A1C again just a few days later, and it was 11.8. So she definitely had diabetes. This was not a fluke or something wrong in the lab. So naturally I asked her the same questions again. What are you eating? And she tells me, well, I have a quesadilla for breakfast and then nothing for lunch, and for dinner I'll have salad with some shrimp. She does admit to me that she likes her sweetbreads, and so she'll indulge in that from time to time. And for exercise, she likes to do house chores. So similar situation, I tell her, listen, you have diabetes, we need to start you on some medications. And she was not exactly interested. She was like, there's got to be something else. Just give me a chance, teach me how to eat, and I will change my ways. And at that point, I'm going, oh my God, 11.8, that's a really high number. Like any doctor seeing this would not just even start her on pills, they would start her on insulin just to get her down immediately. And this woman was refusing any medications. So I tell her, okay, fine, let's try to change your diet. Again, I want you to switch your proteins to beans. I want you to stay from animal products in general, and let's see how you do. So again, she takes my advice to heart as well. She ends up adopting a whole food plant-based diet. And within a month and a half of meeting me and changing her diet, her A1C drops from 11.8 to 6.4. I didn't even know this was actually possible. Usually when we're taught in the medical world, we're taught that it takes about 3 months to see that A1C drop, and hers dropped in just 6 weeks. So this is really, really incredible. Now, technically, her A1C is controlled for diabetes at this point. So once my patients have controlled diabetes, I like to spread out their labs every 3 months. So we recheck her sugars again in 3 months, and it drops to 5.1. Now she doesn't even have pre-diabetes. Now she has completely normal sugars, which is absolutely incredible and just goes to show how powerful food can be. So I have 3 rules for weight loss and weight maintenance. For those of you who already know my message, you've already heard this before. But these 3 rules are not just for weight loss and weight maintenance. This is also for diabetes control as well. So rule number 1 is no animal products. So if it had eyeballs, came from something with eyeballs, I really want you to try to avoid it, because that is a great source of saturated fats. And again, remember, saturated fats don't allow your insulin to work. It blocks that insulin receptor, right? Now, that doesn't mean I want you to be vegan either, because there's a lot of vegan products out there, right? So Oreos are technically vegan, but they sure as heck don't grow off trees like that. So I really want you to focus on foods that look like it grew naturally from the earth like that and was not really messed with by humans, okay? And then my 3rd rule, and this one's a tough one for a few people, is try to cook without oil. And the reason why I say to cook without oil, because it is a source of fat. And even for those patients who are consuming a plant-based diet but still cook with a lot of oil, can see some insulin resistance with that as well. So it does play a role in kind of blocking that insulin receptor and not making it work at its optimal level. So sometimes my patients do have to incorporate rule 3, but most patients can get away with rules 1 and 2 just fine. But if you're still having trouble, like I said, try to cook without oil. So the diet that, oh, by the way, this is a diet I recommend for many different types of diseases, not just for diabetes or weight loss. I also recommend this for heart disease, for cholesterol issues, and I have great stuff on cholesterol too. I'd love to share with that for my next video. But the diet that incorporates or encompasses all these 3 rules is what we call a whole food plant-based diet. So plant-based meaning it's not of animal-derived products, and whole food meaning it grew out in nature that way, and again, not highly processed by human beings, okay? So for those of you who've already seen this, I'm sorry for this, but this is another way of looking at a whole food plant-based diet. A whole food plant-based diet is highlighted in this green box that talks about vegetables, fruits, unprocessed carbohydrates, and legumes. As you can see on this calorie density chart, which shows you how many calories everything is worth per pound of that food, you can see that the whole food plant-based realm is very low in calories naturally. Let's focus a little bit on proteins here. So proteins, legumes are a great source of proteins. They're only 600 calories per pound versus animal products in general, including chicken and fish, are about 1,000 calories per pound. So twice as many calories when it comes to animal products. Here you're going to see that processed carbohydrates versus unprocessed carbohydrates. So let me just highlight that here. So this is your unprocessed carbohydrates at 500 calories per pound versus your processed carbohydrates, which are 1,400 calories per pound. Processed carbohydrates include your, pastries, white bread, crackers, pretzels, things like that that are highly processed and, not really good for you. These will actually spike up your sugar levels. Where I want you to really focus a lot of your energy and your attention on is the unprocessed carbohydrates. And this includes potatoes, it includes whole grains, as well as brown rice. these carbs are actually good for you. So I did mention good carbs versus not great carbs, and these are the carbs I do want you to eat, and I do encourage my patients to consume this because it's a great source of energy for our body. Remember, glucose is our body's preferred source of energy, and we really don't want to get in the way of that by eating saturated fats and processed foods. Vegetables are only 100 calories per pound. Fruits are 300. Fruits I still encourage with my patients with diabetes. I know a lot of doctors might have encouraged you to limit your fruit intake, and to be completely honest, I was one of those doctors as well that kind of was afraid of fruit because I was afraid it was going to spike the high sugar levels. But again, it's fine to eat as much fruit as you want when you have diabetes, as long as you're avoiding the saturated fats, because if you're avoiding the saturated fats, your insulin works properly. Okay, junk food, obviously not good for you, 2,300 calories per pound. Nuts and seeds have a special place in my heart because they do offer health benefits. They have omega-3 fatty acids, really great for the body, but they're very high in calories at 2,800 calories per pound. And when my patients go over, a quarter cup per day, they start seeing that the fats found in those nuts do also start inhibiting their ability to absorb sugars again, and they'll see their sugar levels go high. So if you're going to have nuts, I definitely recommend sticking to only a quarter cup per day. And of course, any oils and fats in general, about 4,000 calories per pound. I would try to avoid this. They don't really offer anything to you other than maybe making your food a bit crispy. Okay, so again, whole food plant-based. If you stick to this realm over here, I promise you, your sugars are going to come down really beautifully, and your doctors are going to be asking you, what did you do? And you're going to tell them. All right, great. So this is another way to look at calorie density. You can see here that this is what 500 calories of different foods look like in your stomach. So here you have oil. It fills up your stomach very little, as well as cheese. That's just that little bit is worth 500 calories, and same thing with meat, 500 calories. So again, what I want you to focus on is a whole food plant-based diet. So that means the potatoes, brown rice, beans, fruits, and vegetables. And again, you can eat to your heart's desire. There is no portion control. I really, really do not encourage that. What I like to point out here too is that when you choose beans, lentils, legumes, soy products, and by that I mean like tofu, it's what I consider high quality protein. I say high quality because beans not only offer the protein that is helpful to your body, it also offers good carbs. It has fiber, it has nutrients, vitamins, antioxidants, lots of minerals. All of these things help to nourish your body. Whereas this side, oops, it won't let me go back. Whereas this side, the oil, cheese, meat just offers protein and fat. And unfortunately, these things on the left-hand side tend to also cause inflammation in the body. So if you're worried about weight or even your sugar levels, I would want to stay away from that. You want to go with an anti-inflammatory diet, which is highlighted in green. Okay, so what's moderation? I think it's a little unrealistic of me to push 100% plant-based diet on people. If you can do that, hooray for you, and A+ for you, amazing. But to kind of make it realistic, for those of you that really truly enjoy eating fish or chicken or steak, if you want to enjoy that, I really try to limit it to only 10% of your diet. So that leaves about 1 or 2 meals a week that you can still enjoy those things. And if you're going to enjoy it, I really like to call it a celebration. Please don't call it cheating. It sounds like you're doing something bad. The only difference in my verbiage, I guess, or the way that I counsel my patients is that, I just don't want you celebrating every day. It is okay to celebrate, I just don't want you celebrating every day. For me, my 10% lies in the processed foods. I do enjoy my Impossible burgers from time to time. So anyway, all right. So we do have, for those of you who are Kaiser members, we do offer plant-based classes. Kaiser Permanente offers all these virtual classes. even for those of you who are non-Kaiser members, you can still enjoy these classes. You can still call these numbers, and I think there's a small fee that you would pay per class, but completely reasonable. And our dietitians who teach these classes are just amazing, and they have a wealth of information when it comes to a plant-based diet. This is a little out of order, but for those of you who can go cold turkey, kind of like my patients that I had shown you an example of, amazing for you. For those of you who are like, listen, I can just barely get one piece of broccoli down my throat, let's start small. And that's okay too. You know, start with just maybe meatless Mondays, or just maybe even one meal a week. And then as you taste that and you're like, oh, this doesn't taste so bad, I actually do feel full off of it, then that's fine. Go ahead and start increasing it. And next thing you know, Monday through Friday, you're plant-based. On the weekends, you're able to celebrate, or you can be strange like me and be plant-based all the time. Okay. So there are resources out there. I've listed the QR code over here. So we have a plant-based pamphlet that you can download. Has a lot of great information as a little starter kit. And then if you're looking for recipes and ideas, we've also included 14 pages worth of recipes and resources for you to kind of jumpstart you and get an idea of what breakfast, lunch, and dinner might look like for you. This is also free to the public, just letting you know. Now, is this safe? Because a lot of you probably don't live alone. You live with a lot of other people. Maybe you have kids, and you want to know if this is okay to feed this to your kids or your family members. And I will be the first to say yes, 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 yes. It is absolutely safe for kids. It is safe in pregnancy. My second pregnancy, I was plant-based and actually had a much healthier pregnancy. It is safe for people who are older, safe for athletes, safe for people with kidney problems. There might be a few restrictions within the plant-based world for kidney problems, but I'm sure if you talk with a dietitian, they can certainly guide you through that in a safe way. And if anything, for those with kidney problems, adopting a whole food plant-based diet can actually save your kidneys. I know of a nephrologist who helps counsel a lot of patients on lifestyle and has saved them from getting dialysis. So the proteins that are found in plant proteins are much more gentle on the kidneys compared to animal proteins. So again, I highly encourage it for everybody. So I think plant-based is coming back. This is how we used to eat generations ago. In Netflix, they've popularized the blue zones, and people who eat this way tend to live longer lives with less medications, and I truly think we need to bring it back to basics. So I just want to end with my favorite quote, which is, the doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest their patients in the care of human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease. So thank you so much for listening to this video. I really hope you were able to learn something. And if you found this information helpful, please forward this to your friend, your colleague. I think this would be so incredibly helpful. I think that a lot of people don't like taking their medications, and this would help them consume less and possibly none. And I think it's a form of empowerment. So please, please, please send this information out to your friends and family. I truly just want to see the world healthier and happier. So I wish you all wellness and health. All right, take care, and thank you for your time.